Professor Klivix stood at the front of the Xenobiology lecture hall, all four of his eye stalks twitching nervously. Today was the day he'd been dreading for 3 solar cycles. Today, he had to teach first-year students about the single most terrifying species in the known galaxy, humans. All right, settle down. Klivix's voice cracked slightly as he adjusted his translation collar. The amphitheater, carved from compressed mineral deposits and lined with holographic displays, held 200 young beings from 47 different worlds. They chatted excitedly, completely unaware of the horror about to unfold. Today's lesson concerns Protocol 7 Alpha 9, Klivix began, pulling up a massive holographic warning symbol that rotated ominously in the air. Otherwise known as the Universal Directive for Handling Unknown Organic Life Forms. A Vexian student in the 3rd row, her name was Prill if Klivix remembered correctly, raised one of her 12 appendages. Sir, isn't that just the rule about not touching things that might kill us? Oh, Prill, if only it were that simple. Klivix laughed, but there was no humor in it. Just exhaustion. Pure, unadulterated exhaustion born from years of filing incident reports. The rule exists because most sentient species possess a survival instinct. A sense of self-preservation. They see something with fangs, claws, venom sacs, or acidic secretions, and their brains scream, run away. He paused dramatically, letting his eye stalks droop for effect. Then there are humans. The room fell silent. Several students leaned forward. Humans, Klivix continued, his voice dropping to what he hoped was an ominous whisper, are a species from a death world called Earth. Class 4 hazard rating. Everything on their planet is either poisonous, predatory, or both. The plants sting. The insects inject neurotoxins. Their oceans contain creatures that can swallow their primitive spacecraft whole. Even their weather tries to kill them on a seasonal basis. A Quellic student named Jorn, gelatinous and semi-transparent, burbled a question through his vocalization membrane. So they must be incredibly cautious, yes. Battle-hardened warriors who treat every new species as a potential threat. Klivix's laugh could only be described as unhinged. Oh, Jorn. Sweet, naive Jorn. Let me tell you about the human we have visiting our station right now. Her name is Mira Quinn. She's here as part of the interspecies exchange program. He pulled up a holographic image of a human female, relatively young by their standards, with dark curly hair pulled back in what they called a ponytail, and wearing the standard-issued jumpsuit of the Galactic scientific community. She was grinning at the camera. Humans did that when they were happy. They bared their teeth, the same gesture most predators made before attacking. Mira arrived 6 standard weeks ago, Klivix said, beginning to pace. Her assignment was simple. Catalog mineral samples from the asteroid belt in Sector 19. Basic work. Safe. No biological components whatsoever. What happened? Prill asked, though she sounded like she wasn't sure she wanted to know. What happened? Klivix's eye stalks all focused on her simultaneously. What happened is that Mira Quinn, in the span of 6 weeks, has violated Protocol 7 Alpha 9 exactly 17 times. 17. And before you ask, yes, we sent her the orientation materials. Yes, we held the mandatory safety briefings. Yes, we even had her sign the waiver acknowledging that unknown species should never, under any circumstances, be approached or touched without proper containment and analysis. He pulled up security footage on the holographic display. The timestamp read 3 weeks prior. The grainy image showed a corridor on the mining station's lower decks, dimly lit and lined with cargo containers. This, Klivix said, pointing dramatically, is when we first realized we had a problem. In the footage, Mira walked down the corridor, humming. Humans made melodic sounds when content. Another unsettling behavior. She paused, tilting her head, then crouched down near a ventilation grate. No, whispered a student in the back row. She didn't. Oh, she did, Klivix confirmed grimly. Mira reached into the ventilation shaft and pulled out a writhing mass of scales and membrane. The creature had 6 legs, each ending in hooked claws, and a mouth full of crystalline teeth that could shear through hull plating. Its eyes glowed an angry crimson, and it emitted a high-pitched shriek that caused several sensitive species in the lecture hall to cover their auditory organs. On the screen, Mira held the thrashing nightmare at arm's length, completely unbothered by its attempts to eviscerate her. Hey there, little guy, her voice came through the audio feed, soft and cooing. You look hungry. And scared. It's okay. I'm not gonna hurt you. The creature lunged at her face. Every student in the lecture hall gasped. Mira simply tucked the creature against her chest, one hand gently but firmly holding its jaw closed, the other stroking along its armored spine. SHHHH. You're all right. Just startled, huh? Got stuck in the vents. Poor thing. That, Klivix said, freezing the image, is a Vexian Ripper. Native to the sulfur swamps of Vex Prime. Their bite contains a hemotoxin, so potent it can drop a full-grown Kralix in under 30 seconds. They are classified as apex predators in their natural habitat, and are known for their aggressive territorial behavior. Did it bite her? John asked, his gelatinous form quivering. Oh, it tried, Klivix said, resuming the footage. Watch. The Ripper twisted in Mira's grip, jaws snapping. It managed to catch her forearm, fangs sinking deep into her flesh. Blood, that disturbing red fluid that humans use to transport oxygen, welled up around the wound. Mira winced. Oh? Okay, yeah, that hurts. But you're scared, I get it. She didn't drop the creature. Didn't scream. Didn't even loosen her grip. Instead, she continued making those soft, soothing sounds while fumbling with her free hand to access her emergency medical kit. She injected herself with broad-spectrum antivenin, Klivix narrated, sealed the wound with synthetic skin, and then, and I cannot stress this enough, she took the Ripper back to her quarters. Why? Several students shouted simultaneously. Because, and I quote from the incident report, it looked lonely. Klivix pulled up said report, highlighting the relevant passage. When confronted by security, Mira argued that the creature was obviously displaced from its natural environment, probably came aboard with a cargo shipment, and was simply acting on instinct. She named it Chomper. A ripple of disbelief ran through the classroom. It gets worse, Klivix said, which honestly, he knew shouldn't have been possible, but humans had a way of defying expectations. 2 days after the Chomper incident, Mira was conducting her assigned survey work in the asteroid field. Her shuttle's external cameras picked up something moving between the rocks. He displayed new footage. This time, the view was from Mira's shuttle, looking out at the tumbling asteroids. Something large and serpentine slithered through the vacuum of space, scales reflecting starlight in iridescent patterns. That's a Void Serpent, Prill said, her voice barely above a whisper. Those are extinction-level threats. They can grow up to 2 kilometers long, consume entire mining operations, and their hide is impervious to standard weapons fire. Correct, Klivix said. This particular specimen was only about 15 meters. A juvenile. Still incredibly dangerous. In the footage, Mira's voice crackled over the comm system. Station control, this is Survey Shuttle 7. I've got visual on what looks like a big space snake out here. Requesting identification. Negative, 7, the station controller's panicked voice responded. That's a Void Serpent. Abort mission and return immediately. Do not, I repeat, do not approach. There was a pause. Then Mira said, it looks injured. There's scarring on its dorsal ridge. Looks like someone took shots at it. 7, that's not your concern. Return to base now. Another pause. Longer this time. Then, in a tone that Klivix had come to recognize as uniquely human, that particular blend of stubbornness and compassion that defied all logic, Mira said, I'm just gonna check on it real quick. The lecture hall erupted in shouted protests. Klivix held up a hand for silence. It's already done. Yelling at the recording won't change history, much as I wish it would. The footage showed Mira maneuvering her shuttle closer to the Void Serpent. The creature's head, easily twice the size of her entire vessel, swiveled to regard her with eyes like miniature suns. Its mouth opened, revealing rows of teeth designed to crack open starship hulls, and Mira Quinn, human xenobiologist in training, turned on her external speakers and said, Hey there, beautiful. Someone hurt you, didn't they? Those are pulse rifle burns. Recent ones, too. I've got some medical supplies. Will you let me help? She didn't, breathed a student. She absolutely did, Klivix confirmed. She spent the next 4 hours in her environmental suit, floating in open space, applying regenerative gel to the Void Serpent's wounds while it watched her with what our behavioral analysts could only describe as confusion. The footage jumped ahead, showing Mira back in her shuttle, the serpent coiled loosely around her ship like a protective barrier. She was making notes on her datapad, completely unconcerned. She named that one Slinky, Klivix said flatly. It followed her back to the station, and has taken up residence in the nearby asteroid cluster. It brings her rocks now. Actual asteroid fragments, like offerings. Our xenopsychology department is having collective breakdowns, trying to understand the behavioral implications. Klivix took a long drink from his hydration cylinder before continuing. His eye stalks were starting to ache from the stress. Now, you might think, surely, after 2 incidents, the human would learn. Surely, someone would revoke her station privileges. Surely, the universe would grant us a moment of peace. He pulled up a third file, this one marked with so many hazard warnings that the holographic display flickered under the weight of them. Last week, Klivix said, his voice taking on the quality of someone who'd seen too much, Mira was having her morning meal in the station cafeteria. She was sitting alone, eating something called a bagel, which is apparently a bread circle that humans have strong emotional opinions about, when she noticed something under her table. The security footage showed exactly that. Mira, mid-bite, glancing down. Then her face lit up with that terrifying human expression of delight. She reached under the table. Ancestors preserve us, Prill whispered. What emerged was perhaps the most universally feared creature in 12 systems. A shadow weaver. 8 legs, each segmented and covered in sensory barbs that detected heat, movement, and fear pheromones. Its body was the color of deep space, absorbing light, making it nearly invisible in dim conditions. Most terrifying were its mandibles, which injected a paralyzing enzyme. Before the creature consumed its prey from the inside out, the cafeteria erupted in chaos on the screen. Tables overturned. Species of all kinds scrambled for the exits. Someone triggered the emergency alarm. And there was Mira Quinn, sitting calmly in the middle of pandemonium, holding a shadow weaver in her lap like it was a domestic pet. No, 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 she was saying, her voice cutting through the sirens. Everyone stop. You're scaring it. Look, it's terrified. It's terrified. John burbled incredulously. The apex predator is terrified. According to Mira's subsequent 14-page report, yes, Klivix said, rubbing his temples with 2 of his eye stalks. She argued that shadow weavers are ambush predators, meaning they prefer to avoid confrontation. This one had likely been hiding in the station's lower levels, surviving on waste materials, trying to stay unnoticed. The noise and movement of the crowded cafeteria had disoriented it, and it was attempting to flee when it got cornered under her table. On screen, Mira was gently examining the shadow weaver, turning it carefully in her hands. The creature's mandibles clicked softly, but it made no move to attack. Poor baby. You're molting, aren't you? That's why you came up here. Looking for moisture. The lower decks are too dry. Security personnel arrived, weapons drawn. Step away from the creature. Mira looked up, annoyed. Actually annoyed. At the people trying to save her life. Put those away. You'll stress it out more than it already is. Look at the carapace separation. It's in a vulnerable state. Shooting it would be cruel and unnecessary. That thing could kill you in seconds. So could you with those plasma rifles, but I'm not panicking about it. Mira shot back. She stood carefully, cradling the shadow weaver against her chest. I'm taking it to my quarters. It needs a humid environment and some peace and quiet. And probably some protein. Does anyone know what these things eat? The security chief on screen looked like he was contemplating early retirement. Regulations state that all unknown potentially hostile life forms must be contained in the Xenobiology lab for study and possible termination. Mira's expression went cold. Humans had another unsettling trait. When they cared about something, really cared, they became absolutely immovable. Over my dead body. This creature hasn't done anything wrong except exist in a place it didn't choose to be. If you want to take it, you'll have to go through me. There was a long silence. Then the security chief sighed, a universal sound of defeat that transcended species. Fine. But it's your responsibility. Any incidents, and we're spacing both of you. Fair enough, Mira said cheerfully, and walked out of the cafeteria with a shadow weaver in her arms like it was the most normal thing in the galaxy. Klivix paused the footage. She named that one Silk. It apparently sleeps on her bed now. Mira filed for official custodial status yesterday. Our legal department is still trying to figure out if that's even possible under Galactic law. The classroom sat in stunned silence. Finally, a small Pixarian student named Tick, who'd been quiet the entire lecture, raised a tentacle. Professor, I don't understand. Why would she do this? What does she gain from keeping creatures that could kill her at any moment? Klivix's eye stalks all focused on Tick. This was the question, wasn't it? The one that kept him up during his rest cycles. I asked her that exact thing yesterday. Would you like to hear her response? Every student nodded. Klivix pulled up one final recording. This one was from his own office, timestamp less than 24 hours old. Mira sat across from his desk, looking tired but content. Behind her, visible through the office window, a Vexian Ripper dozed on a heating pad. A Void Serpent's massive head rested against the station's outer hull, and a shadow weaver was carefully constructing a web in the corner using some kind of synthetic fiber Mira had provided. Mira, Klivix's recorded voice said, help me understand. You're an intelligent being. You've studied xenobiology. You know the risks. So why do you insist on adopting every dangerous creature you encounter? Mira was quiet for a moment, gathering her thoughts. When she spoke, her voice was soft but firm. Professor, do you know what Earth was like before humans developed civilization? A death world. Class 4 hazard rating. Right? Everything wanted to eat us. We were slow, relatively weak, no natural armor, no venom, no claws. By all accounts, we should have gone extinct. She leaned forward. But we didn't. Want to know why? Klivix's recorded self made a gesture indicating she should continue. Because we made friends with a wolf. There was a pause. I'm sorry, a what? Wolves. Apex predators on Earth. Pack hunters. Incredibly dangerous. Thousands of years ago, some human looked at a wolf and thought, you know what? I bet we could help each other out. And somehow, impossibly, it worked. That wolf became a dog. Dogs became humanity's companions, our protectors, our friends. We did the same thing with wild cats, with horses, with birds of prey. We didn't conquer our world through strength. We survived by making connections. Mira glanced back at Chomper, who'd started snoring. Every creature you've labeled as dangerous and irredeemable is just an animal trying to survive in an environment it doesn't understand. Chomper wasn't attacking me out of malice. He was scared and hungry. Slinky wasn't threatening the station. She was injured and alone. Silk wasn't hunting anyone. She was just trying to find a safe place to molt. She turned back to face the camera directly. You see monsters. I see beings who need help. And maybe that's the human thing. Maybe it's stupid. Maybe it violates every protocol in your books. But you know what? All three of them trust me now. Chomper takes food from my hand. Slinky lets me ride on her back when I do surveys. Silk literally purrs when I brush her carapace. They are not monsters. They never were. They just needed someone to give them a chance. The recording ended. Klivix stood before his class, all four eye stalks focusing on different students. And that, he said slowly, is why Protocol 7 Alpha 9 exists specifically because of humans. Not to protect them from the universe, but to protect the universe from their complete and utter lack of self-preservation, instinct combined with their absolutely baffling compulsion to befriend everything. Prill raised an appendage again. Sir, what happened with the custodial status application? Klivix sighed, a long, weary sound that seemed to come from his very soul. It was approved this morning. Mira Quinn is now the legal guardian of 3 Class A restricted species. The Galactic Council is establishing a new classification category called Therapy Animals, and they've asked Mira to write the guidelines. She's also been offered a position heading a new program called Interspecies Rehabilitation and Integration. You're joking, John said. I wish I was. The program launches next month. They're already getting applications from other humans who want to adopt dangerous creatures. There's apparently a waiting list. The class erupted in chaos. Questions flew from every direction. How was this legal? What about safety? Who approved this? Was the council insane? Klivix held up his hands, calling for quiet. Listen. Here's what you need to understand. Humans are terrifying not because they are strong or particularly well armed. They are terrifying because they refuse to see the universe the way everyone else does. Where we see danger, they see potential. Where we see monsters, they see friends. And somehow, impossibly, they are usually right. He pulled up one last image. It showed Mira in her quarters, surrounded by all 3 of her pets. Chomper was curled up on her lap. Silk had woven a hammock in the corner and was resting peacefully. Through the window, Slinky's massive form coiled protectively around the station's exterior, her scales shimmering like a living aurora, and Mira was smiling. Not the predatory teeth-baring that scared so many species, but a genuine expression of contentment and love. Your assignment, Klivix said, is a 5,000-word report on why Protocol 7 Alpha 9 is the most important safety regulation in galactic history, and why humans are the only species who will ever make it completely obsolete. Class dismissed. As the students filed out, chattering nervously among themselves, Klivix collapsed into his chair. Through his office window, he could see Mira walking through the station corridor, Chomper perched on her shoulder, completely at ease. A group of young cadets stopped her, asking questions, clearly fascinated. His comm unit beeped. A message from Station Command. Professor Klivix, we've received 3 more humans as part of the exchange program. All of them have listed Xenobiology as their primary interest. Please prepare additional safety briefings. Also, we're requisitioning more medical supplies. And possibly some counselors. Mostly for the staff. Klivix stared at the message for a long moment. Then he did something he rarely did. He laughed. A real, genuine laugh that echoed through his empty classroom. Humans. Absolutely terrifying. Completely insane. And somehow, against all odds and logic, they were making the galaxy a better place. 1 adopted monster at a time.